So why use video? Those of you who are using it, why? How does it support learning and development? It's reflective. How so? What is it? Why isn't a conversation? What's the difference between a conversation reflection and a video reflection?
Because you're viewing real time.
Yeah.
Getting to see your feedback. Your real self. You're viewing yourself.
Your real self. You're viewing yourself. You're outside of yourself viewing yourself. Nice, Angel.
Not what you perceive.
Ah, reality versus perception. Yep. Yeah. Really nice, Angel. What else?
I think it can be the difference between, like, if I'm telling you something, but you're not an auditory learner, but
Mm-hmm.
you visualize it.
Visual.
Too, if they're more of a visual learner.
Absolutely. The visual. No question. A lot of science about that. A lot of people being visual learners. Not everyone.
Something I didn't realize until I used video was the teachers will always believe you.
Yeah.
And you'll show them the video and they're like, that wasn't me. Okay, you're wearing the same outfit.
Looks like you. Doppelganger. Yeah. Yeah.
Watch it again, you hear your voice?
Yeah.
So
And
that
that-
made me think all the times before when I didn't have video.
Wah, 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 wah. Because those beliefs, those pesky beliefs, you know, and I get it, I'm a therapist. We talk about cognitive behavioral, but the beliefs are everything. There's a phrase in English, I don't know if it translates to other languages, but seeing is believing. True, but more importantly, believing is seeing. But in terms of the framework for video coaching that I use, it's the same thing like the practice-based coaching. It's shared observation, shared reflection, and shared planning. So that grounds us. Now let's unpack it. What does that really mean? The first is, how do we weave video into the coaching conversation? Now, I don't know if you have a framework for the actual whole conversation. I'm talking about just the video portion. So you might have started with something and then you get to the video portion, or you might start with the video portion. In my model, it both work. So you can add in something before this, or you can start with this. And for me, I start with taking brief clips tied to the teacher's goals, all the teachers. So do most of you just meet with the lead teacher? No, you meet with the whole team? Either or works. Whomever is going to show up at the coaching conversation, I make sure each session I have a clip of everybody. And the idea is everybody's a teacher, everybody's important, everybody's included. Inclusive practice. I had already forecasted a huge part of where the framework starts is seeing strengths. It's not enough to say, look for your strengths. That's too broad. So I like to have what I call a guiding question that I give to them every time, because there's 4 conditions for learning. 4 conditions for learning in the brain are focal attention, novelty, repetition, and emotional arousal. And so even though it's novel, it's the moment, it's a different moment, I like the repetition of reminding them the guiding questions, reminding them the framework so they can feel more comfortable and relaxed. So the guiding question I give, because I do social emotional, is what teaching practices did you observe yourself implementing or attempting to implement? And I say, instead of teaching practices, how did you see yourself implementing either, for her, it's the system to limit the number of kids, the PDA, the emotional literacy. So I'll say what the actual practices are. So I'll tie her focus to looking for the actual practices. And depending on English fluency and concrete learning stages, it will be sometimes in a clip, I'll just choose 2 of them. So she's got 5 goals, I might just say 2, right? Or 1. Because I know in this clip, she's going to see this one goal. So I may narrow it too, but the idea is guide them to focus on that. And then I ask them to, I already did in that opening, but I also remind them once we hit the video, what was the impact on the child or the children? So I give this guiding question before we watch the clip. Then when the clip stops, before we launch into reflection and shared observation, I give a little summary of that again, because so many times, even though I've given this, as soon as the clip stops, what do I get? Oh, I messed it up. Oh, I look so fat. Oh, I missed that opportunity. What's missing? What's wrong? What's missing? What's wrong? So I try to interrupt that and get them on the strength-based. This also, just so you know, in Rick Hansen's work, is an attempt to balance out the negativity bias with experience-dependent neuroplasticity or the positivity bias for them to scan what's good and what's going well, just to balance out. Not to be Pollyanna, to be realistic. We don't want to trade seats on the Titanic. We don't want to go from mostly negative to mostly positive. We want realistic thinking, but realistic thinking comes from realistic observing. So we'll scan for the strengths first.